I was sitting at the dining table, working on my laptop, when suddenly I felt a sharp pain on my neck. I gasped and looked up to see my mother-in-law standing there, holding a hot hair iron close to me, with a cold smirk on her face. "Even a lazy parasite like you can feel pain?" she sneered. "You freeload here, living comfortably, but you're totally useless." Her words stung. I'd been covering our rent and all the household expenses, yet nothing I did seemed to satisfy her. She looked at me with disgust, like I didn't belong in her home. I tried to stay calm. "Why do you treat me like this?" I asked softly, holding back tears. She scoffed, saying, "Stop being lazy and get out. Don't think you can live off us forever." I felt a wave of anger, but I kept my face calm and replied, "Fine. If you want me gone, I'll leave, and I won't come back." Her eyes widened a bit, like she hadn't expected me to say that, but she quickly shrugged. "Good. I won't miss you," she said, sounding cold and indifferent. My heart pounded as I walked to my room to pack my things. My hands shook as I shoved clothes into a suitcase, feeling a strange mix of anger and sadness. Why had I put up with this treatment for so long? I'd been working hard to support the household, paying for everything, yet I was the one treated like an outsider. As I packed, tears stung my eyes, but I held them back. I didn't want her to see me break down. I took a deep breath, grabbed my bags, and left without looking back. Walking out of that house, I felt a strange sense of freedom. My name is Kelly. I'm 35 years old, and I've been married for 2 years. I work from home as a freelance writer, and I had built a good career, making enough to support myself and later my new family. My husband Ben was charming and ambitious when we first met. He always talked about starting a business, dreaming of opening a shop selling unique accessories. He had so much energy and drive that I was drawn to him right away. After a few dates, we got serious, and when he proposed, I felt like I'd found my perfect partner. But after our marriage, things started to change. A year later, Ben's father passed away suddenly, and Ben asked if we could move in with his mother to support her through the loss. I agreed, thinking it was temporary and wanting to be a good wife. Living with his mother in her big fancy apartment seemed fine at first. Ben assured me it would only be for a short time, and he promised she would handle the rent, while we'd only cover living expenses. But from the start, things didn't feel right. His mother made it clear she didn't approve of me. She'd constantly remind me that I was older than Ben, as if that made me less worthy. She'd make snide remarks about my clothes, my work, even the way I cleaned or cooked. I tried hard to ignore her comments, thinking she was just stressed after her husband's passing. I hoped that if I put in enough effort, she'd eventually accept me. But as days went by, her attitude only got worse. Her criticism became a daily routine. She found something wrong with everything I did, from the way I prepared breakfast to the way I dressed. I'd wake up early, hoping to make a meal she'd like, only to hear her muttering, "Is this really what you call cooking?" She'd look down her nose at me, making me feel small and worthless. I bit my tongue and tried harder, hoping Ben was right and she would come around. But deep down, I felt myself crumbling. Every insult and every glare chipped away at my confidence. I told myself it was temporary, but the weight of her disapproval was beginning to break me. I felt trapped, with no escape in sight. Ben, who had once been my closest support, started to pull away too. Our conversations became shorter, and he always seemed preoccupied. Then one evening, he dropped a big surprise on me. He had quit his job months ago without telling me. He had opened the store he'd always dreamed of, working with an old college friend. He seemed so excited as he explained his plans, but then he asked if I could pay the entire rent until his store made a profit. I was shocked. I was already paying for most of our expenses and working long hours, but he looked at me with hopeful eyes, and I couldn't bring myself to say no. I convinced myself it was temporary and took on even more work to make ends meet. As my workload grew, so did my stress. I was supporting both Ben and his mother, who continued to belittle me every day. She treated my work as if it were worthless, constantly suggesting I should take on more chores around the house. "You're home all day," she'd say, ignoring the fact that I was working nonstop. She even started asking me to leave the house whenever she had guests, as though I was an embarrassment to her. To escape the tension, I'd go to a nearby cafe, taking my laptop with me and working from there. But no matter how much I tried to find peace, every time I returned home, the coldness and judgment were waiting for me. I was holding on by a thread, hoping for a way out of this endless cycle. Then came the day that changed everything. I was working at the dining table when she pressed that hot hair iron against my neck. The searing pain shocked me, but her mocking smile cut deeper. Even someone like you can feel pain, she laughed. I knew right then that I couldn't stay there any longer. I packed my belongings, feeling numb with a mix of pain and relief. I didn't let myself cry, not in front of her. I walked out of that house, not looking back, knowing that I deserved better than her cruelty. With each step, I felt a weight lifting, as if I was finally freeing myself from her toxic hold over me. I headed straight to my parents' house, where I knew I'd be safe. When I arrived, my parents welcomed me with open arms. It felt like I could finally breathe again. I broke down and told them everything, from how I'd been paying for everything to the cruel treatment I'd faced from Ben's mother. They were shocked and angry, and their support gave me strength. They encouraged me not to go back to that toxic situation, to focus on my own happiness instead. I realized that I had spent so long trying to please everyone else that I had forgotten about my own well-being. With my parents' love and encouragement, I started to see a future for myself, one where I didn't have to endure constant criticism and disrespect. I knew it was time to move forward, even if it meant leaving Ben behind. A week later, Ben reached out, apologizing and asking me to return. He said his mother felt sorry and promised things would be different, but I couldn't forget the pain I had endured, especially that burn from the hair iron. I told him I wanted a divorce. He seemed shocked, pleading for a chance to meet in person and talk it over. Reluctantly, I agreed to meet him and his mother at a fancy cafe, hoping to get some closure. I dressed carefully, making sure the burn mark on my neck was visible. When they arrived, both looked uncomfortable, but I stayed calm. This time, I was ready to confront them both with the truth of everything I had gone through. As we sat down, Ben's mother tried to apologize, claiming she was under stress and didn't mean to hurt me. I stayed silent, letting her words sink in without truly accepting them. Then, I turned slightly, letting the burn on my neck show. Her face turned pale, and Ben looked horrified, realizing just how far things had gone. I explained that I'd been paying for everything, even the allowance his mother thought was from Ben. Her shocked expression told me she hadn't known. Ben tried to justify his actions, saying he didn't understand the full burden I was under. But his words felt empty. I calmly told them I was done, that I couldn't continue to carry them, financially or emotionally. I deserved peace and respect, things I would never get if I went back. As I walked out of the cafe, I felt a huge weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time, I felt free. Ben and his mother would have to face the consequences of their actions without me there to support them. In the following months, I focused on my career, taking on new projects that made me proud. Meanwhile, Ben and his mother moved to a smaller apartment, struggling to adjust to a life without my financial support. They had once lived comfortably, but now they faced a harsher reality. As for me, I felt a new strength and freedom. I was finally living for myself, healing from the scars they had left, both on my heart and my skin. I knew I had made the right choice, moving forward into a brighter future,